Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Nate. I also go by Hockey Boy Nate. This is another weather forecasting discussion for January 26th, 2022. Now, before we get started with what we have been discussing here on the channel, what we've been trying to track here is we do have a winter storm watch that has been officially issued by the National Weather Service for eastern portions of Massachusetts and the entire state of Rhode Island. So if you live over here, you guys could potentially get 8 to 16 inches of snow, as well as up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, which is easily blizzard conditions. So you really need to watch out for that. There could even be a blizzard warning issued by the time that the system actually pushes through your area. So I would highly recommend preparing now, as there could potentially be some blizzard-like conditions within your area. We've been talking about this since yesterday. We said that these areas here are more than likely going to get some activity here, and that's the reason why we said yesterday that if you guys live within this general vicinity, you probably should go ahead and start preparing for the worst. But now, since we got that out of the way, let's take a look at the current water vapor satellite imagery to try and get an idea as to what all is happening right now in the atmosphere. And we got a couple of things to point out here. First off, we got this low pressure system right here. You guys can barely see it, but we do have some strong wind shear that's pushing this across, and then we have a little bit of a dip in the jet stream to where you can see how the air, the winds, and the clouds coming from the north to the south is kind of just bowling down just like this. And there just happens to be a low pressure system creating a lot of frozen precipitation across portions of Texas and Oklahoma. And that's the reason why you guys can see this little blue box right within here. That's actually a mesoscale discussion that has been issued by the Storm Prediction Center, actually mentioning that there is more than likely some wintry precipitation within that general area. We also have a ridge that is also still in place here off the coast of the western United States. You can see the general flow of this clockwise spin here within the atmosphere, and that is where this high pressure system is. Right inside that ridge is where this is located. We also have some other areas of low pressure systems basically forcing this ridge a bit further and further to the east. So watch for this high pressure system to continue to move on further and further east inland. And that is basically going to set up for what's going to happen here within this event, as well as what's going to happen after this event as this continues to move about. But for right now, this ridge is basically creating a lot of low pressure systems here from Canada, and it is pushing a bit further down south. It's just going to be this continuous loop, if you will, of low pressure systems digging down deep into portions of the Rockies, curling down towards portions of the southern United States, and then riding up the coastline, creating what will be our winter storm and most likely blizzard as this pushes on through towards the latter stages of the week. And already here you can see this new low pressure system that is beginning to develop here across portions of the northwest. You can see how this little dip in the jet stream right here indicates that there could potentially be an upper level low right here. And we even have another low pressure system, this Alberta Clipper, that is moving on through portions of southern Canada, creating some wintry precipitation across portions of the Midwest and the Great Lakes. So watch out for that. Maybe an ironic warm-up, if you will, of what could potentially happen in the future later on this week. So definitely something to monitor here, and we're going to take a look at that here with the weather models. But before we do that, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to help boost this on YouTube's algorithm so that we can get this video out to more and more people. Share this with friends and family and on social media so that we can try and get this information out to as many people as possible, because there's more than likely going to be a blizzard that's going to impact a lot of people in the Northeast. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the simulated radar here leading up to this system, just to try and see what all could potentially be happening. If you want to take a look at the time, it is in Eastern above me, so just watch out for that. But the big thing here to monitor is, you guys remember that mesoscale discussion that I talked about as to why there could potentially be snow there? And that is showing up here on the simulated radar here, according to the North American model. That is expected to linger throughout much of the evening tonight into tomorrow before early tomorrow morning it really starts to kind of wither away as it moves into portions of Missouri and Arkansas. And then we also have some lingering showers and thunderstorms that are over here into portions of Florida. So be mindful of that. Could potentially be some flooding in that general vicinity. But the big thing here to monitor is, A, we have our new low pressure system that's starting to bring some snow bands across portions of the northern Rockies in the United States, all the way up into portions of southwestern portions of Canada. And then you also have this Alberta Clipper that's moving on through, creating snow for portions of Ontario, Quebec, and the Great Lakes. So monitor those. You'll see how this snowstorm up here in Ontario is going to move off towards portions of the Northeast, creating a little bit of a per se warm up before the main storm actually moves on through days later. And then you'll see how this low pressure system will actually move on further and further down south, creating snow for portions of the Rockies and basically creating more and more activity for them before it finally withers off from Friday morning into Friday afternoon. And you'll see how as this protrudes on through, you can start to see the buildup of the new low pressure system that begins to form here from Friday night into Saturday morning. And look at this. According to the NAM, you can start to see some snow across portions of the Carolinas all the way up into portions of Virginia as well as Delmarva as early as about midnight on Saturday. So start to watch out for how that continues to protrude on through. Now, before the big storm, you can see here some of the snow totals for much of this area is not exceptionally high. You can see at maximum here, which is just to the bottom right of the screen, just to the left of me, you can see the maximum amount of snowfall in some of these areas is in upwards of 6 inches. So not expected to be too significant here from this batch of snow. But then as we play out here, according to the Euro model, from Thursday into Friday and heading on into Saturday, you can see that's when the big low pressure system starts to form off of the coast of the eastern United States and moves on further and further to the northeast. And that's why they call it a nor'easter, because it's moving north and east. So we got a lot of snow that is anticipated throughout much of the areas here of the coastal United States, and that'll continue to be the case as it moves off further towards the north and east and eventually in towards areas near Nova Scotia. Now, what I want to direct your attention towards now is the 500 millibar wind shear, which is about 6 kilometers above ground level. Now, we take a look at this to try and figure out what the general flow of the atmosphere is. And we can see a couple things. We can see our ridge right within here with our clockwise flow of wind shear right within this general vicinity right here. You can also see the low pressure system that is right near Texas and Oklahoma creating that snow. And you can also see your clipper that is starting to move on through into portions of southern Canada. So right here, you can already tell that this is relatively accurate with what is happening right now according to the Euro. So let's play this out here from now all the way up until Friday. And you can see as we go into Friday morning, you can see a new upper level low that begins to develop with the old low pressure system that was moving on further down to the south, basically jolting the southernmost portion of wind shear, the westerly shear here moving from west to east, and that is basically going to influence this new low pressure system that develops off of the coast to move a bit further east and to move a bit further towards the north, essentially creating your aforementioned nor'easter. Now, on the other hand, you can see your ridge here move a bit further inland, and this is going to continue to be the case as it moves on through even after this blizzard, which could potentially give us a shot of severe weather into portions of the central United States heading off towards the southeast by mid next week. So we're going to have to watch out for how that moves on through, but just by looking at that pattern, we can kind of attribute it to be a bit more of a severe weather generator for the next week. But otherwise, as this plays on through, you can see how the wind shear really starts to amplify here as it gets towards portions of Friday into Saturday, specifically along Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening, when the low pressure system finally gets off towards portions of Cape Cod, and that's right around the time into which it really is going to be at its peak, when the intensity is really going to start firing off across areas to the closest area of the low pressure system. So we're just going to have to watch out for how close that low pressure system actually gets up to the coast to determine as to which areas could get the most significant impacts. So a good way to figure out as to how close it could be is if we compare it to another model. So we got the GFS at the top left-hand side and the Euro on the top right-hand side. So that's basically what we're going to be using from now all the way until the end of the video to try and determine as to what the differences, what the similarities are between the two models to try and determine as to what specifically could happen for which specific areas. And we already know that areas along eastern Massachusetts and portions of Rhode Island are going to get into the impactful zone. I mean, that's just set in stone for the most part right now. But let's see if we can figure out any other areas here. And the big thing here that I see for the most part with what has been most consistent is from Friday afternoon to Friday evening, do not be surprised if we get some snow across portions of eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, all the way in towards the Appalachian Mountains and heading off towards the mid-Atlantic, specifically from the eastern Panhandle and the Allegheny Mountains all the way through east towards portions of DC and Baltimore. I would not be surprised if you had a shot of snow moving on through within that general time frame. But then as this moves on through from Friday into Saturday, look at where the low pressure systems end up starting to form. We have this massive elongated low pressure system here with the Euro, but then we also have this very tightly compacted low pressure system here according to the GFS. And the big thing here to take away from both of this is that the low pressure systems actually form, if you take a look at the middle of both of the low pressure systems, they actually are well off of the coast of the United States, and they're actually not too far away from each other. But the big thing here to be aware of is that the Euro actually takes much of this moisture that is out here, out in front of the low pressure system, and pulls it around it completely. It actually wraps it around. Whereas if you take a look at the GFS, that isn't exactly the case, and you can see how some areas further west actually do not get snow compared to areas here along the Euro to where it actually says it does. So just basically here to be mindful of as this moves on through. But the big thing here that I can basically say with full determination is that areas along the coast of the United States here, from Delmarva, let's say Ocean City, all the way up towards portions near Delaware, all the way up towards portions of Atlantic City, all the way into Long Island, and eventually up towards Cape Cod. You guys could basically get the brunt of this system as this moves on through, specifically up near Cape Cod, to where there could potentially be some blizzard-like conditions. But anywhere that I just called out, you guys definitely need to watch out for this storm as this moves on through and be very mindful. I would say pay attention to the National Weather Service as much as possible. Go ahead and start preparing if you need to do so to make yourself feel better. Get food, get warm clothes, get batteries, battery packs for your phones and stuff like that. Any sort of equipment that you may need to try and prepare yourself for potential power outages. If you can't get out, please be sure to prepare that way, prepare accordingly. Any sort of way for you guys to just go ahead and do so. Now, the reason why I'm not saying anything about South Carolina and North Carolina quite yet is because I'm not exactly sure as to how soon this low pressure system actually is going to form and curl off a bit further. If it actually forms a lot earlier, like what the GFS actually says, and a lot further towards the east, you can see how some areas here get a lot more rain compared to snow. And so that's just one of those things where I'm going to have to continue to monitor for you guys. But I will have that answer for you as we get closer and closer towards the actual event. And for you guys, that'll actually be on Friday night. So by Thursday night's video of this system here, by Thursday, I will have an answer for you guys of the Carolinas as to what exactly you guys could get. And let's just play this through to show you what happens even after this. And oh boy, that is a big bomb cyclone that forms here. For people who don't know what a bomb cyclone is, it's basically when a low pressure system drops a significant amount of millibars or pressure. If it lowers its pressure significantly in a short time period, that's when it is considered a bomb cyclone. And according to both models, that is the case here. So guys, usually when we have a bomb cyclone like this, we can attribute hurricane force winds or wind gusts in some instances, as well as significant snow within some areas, and visibility could easily be next to zero within some instances. Now, the one thing I want to try and take a look at is how much moisture there actually will be with this environment. And we're going to be starting here from Friday afternoon, basically when the low pressure system starts to form off of the coast of the Carolinas. And I want you guys to basically pay attention to a couple of things. First off, with the humidity levels here at 850 millibars, which is about 1 kilometer above ground level, there seems to be quite a bit of dry air that is in place over portions near the St. Lawrence River as well as into portions of the Great Lakes. And I want you guys to pay attention to that, as well as how much moisture there actually is over portions of the Carolinas too. According to the Euro, there actually seems to be not as much moisture, whereas the GFS actually says that there actually is a plethora of moisture. And that all depends upon where the low pressure system actually forms as this continues to move on through. But then other than the areas that I have called into question, there seems to be a lot of moisture here according to the relative humidity, with a lot of these greens and blues indicating relatively high humidity amounts. And that ends up being the case here for the majority of the time frame. But then watch as this continues to play on through. When the low pressure system actually really starts to form, you can see a lot of this dry air start to seep in behind all this, a lot of this dry air. And because of that, you can expect areas near the Great Lakes to probably not be a part of this actual system. You can also take into account that some areas, I'd say near Pittsburgh as well as further towards Harrisburg, you guys might get some flurries, but you guys aren't going to majorly be a part of this system either. And depending upon how far that dry air actually seeps eastward, can determine as to which areas here could potentially get a substantial amount of snow versus not a whole lot of snow. So we're just going to have to continue to watch out for this as this moves on through a bit closer and closer. So, snow totals. What about the snow totals? Nate, I don't care about wind shear. Nate, I don't care about humidity. Just give me the snow totals. Stop rambling. Well, here we are. I mean, we got two different tales of the solutions here between the GFS and the Euro. I think the one thing is pretty consistent, though. I mean, if I were to zoom into Massachusetts, which it just so happens that I can, and you can see across most areas here along Cape Cod, I mean, look at that. That's pretty clear. Both the models say that you guys are going to get a lot of snow. I mean, an upwards of 2 feet of snow in some spots, even higher than that. Look at the maximum on the left-hand side. A maximum of almost 30 inches of snow according to the GFS, and even over 2 feet of snow according to the Euro. So somebody over near Cape Cod, whether it's in Martha's Vineyard, whether it's along Hyannis, whether it's a bit further north towards Boston, you guys are going to get a lot of snow. So you got to watch out for this if you guys can. And if we take a look at the difference between the NAM model on the left and the Euro model on the right, you can see there's a lot of similarities. So we're just going to have to watch here from coastal Maine all the way down to Cape Cod, all the way down through towards Long Island, coastal Connecticut, and down towards coastal New Jersey. Everyone needs to be on high alert because there definitely could be some substantial amount of snow. Now, just for laughs, we're going to be taking a look at the maximum wind gusts expected within much of the areas here, which is basically going to tell us as to how high some of the winds could potentially be. And I mean, look at that. You already have some areas that can be in upwards of hurricane force near Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, even towards areas along coastal Long Island and even coastal Connecticut and Rhode Island. So this is just basically going to be one of those things where you're going to have to watch. Even if you're along the coastline of Maine, you're going to have to watch as well, because this storm will eventually head off through your general area as well. So we'll have all the specific answers here for you all as this moves on through, but anticipate a likely blizzard that'll move on through into portions of New England, and expect it to bring some substantial amounts of snow as well as some heavy wind gusts, potentially creating widespread power outages and very, very hazardous travel. So you guys really need to go ahead and prepare now if you guys haven't already. And that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications, share this with friends and family and on social media, especially with as many people as possible, because let's be honest here, somebody's going to get a blizzard. All right, someone's going to get about 2 feet of snow, maybe even higher than that. Some people are going to get hurricane force winds, and it's better for us to try and get this out to as many people as possible. So please be sure to share this with as many people as possible. Our Give It To Me Straight question of the day is, do you think they should bring back blizzard watches? Why or why not? The most interesting answer I will pin in the comments down below. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys Thursday night. Peace out, everyone.